Welcome to the You World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, and transformational coaches being the change they seek in the world. If you'd like to be featured on our podcast to share what you're contributing to making the world a better place for us all, please go to www.jointheyouworldorder.com. Be sure to like and follow our podcast for the latest episodes. Hi, and welcome to the You World Order Showcase podcast. Today we have with us Junie Moon, who is a love coach and a women's empowerment leader. She helps women break free from past relationship baggage and unleash their fabulous true self. Once they fall in love with themselves, they easily attract their divine right partner. And she's also the host of the Midlife Love Out Loud podcast. Welcome to the show, Junie. It's great to have you
Oh,
here.
thank you. Thank you. So good to be here.
So tell us your story. How did you get involved in this?
How did I get involved in helping single women in the second half of life? Actually, not just single women, but women in general that want a spectacular second act and having deep love and relationships and all the yummy stuff. Well, that's been my journey. I was in a 20-year marriage, walking on eggshells, not really getting my needs met. It was challenging. I micromanaged everything and I was unhappy and I did the best I could. And then I kind of woke up. And I woke up after I hit 200 pounds on a 5'3" body, thinking that,
Oh,
something was really wrong with me. And ultimately, what was, quote, wrong with me, because there's nothing wrong with any of us, but what was happening was there was a lot underneath the surface that just wasn't being taken care of, and low self-esteem and fear of being rejected and all the stuff. And so I discovered a body of work called shadow work, among other tools, but that was the biggest one. And I suddenly found myself. I found my voice. I found my self worth. I found healthy boundaries. And sadly, the relationship didn't last. However, I left that relationship and I went into another relationship pretty soon out the gate. Not necessarily something I recommend, but for me, it worked. And I discovered what I call next level love, where I could be myself and relax and be loved for just who I am, and to have the extraordinary deep connection. And sadly, that didn't last, not because of the love, but because of circumstances. And that's another story for another day. Suffice it to say, I knew it could be so much better, and I experienced this depth of divine connection. And then I dove into dating and realized I didn't know anything about dating. I made all the mistakes. So, put it all together, for the last 15 years, I have found a very specific system. I've created a system to help women really put a stake in the ground for beautiful next level love. And whether they have a partner or not, they come home to their hearts, and they also know how to date well if that's what they want to do. And because I did it and I never thought I could do it. And by the way, I lost 50 pounds and kept it off for over 20 years, um, give or take. Uh, Things have changed, and I knew that I not only was onto something, but there was something really not talked about overall in our culture, in the world, which is the unconscious beliefs that keep us stuck. So I'm so passionate and dedicated to helping women rise up and be themselves and love it.
that is so amazing. And it's not an uncommon story. You meet women who've been in and out of relationships, and we tend to like make the same mistakes over and over because we just don't know any better. And you seek what you think feels comfortable, but it's just familiar. And comfortable and familiar aren't always the same thing, don't you find?
Yeah, and that's like there's a lot with what you just said. So, it's interesting because if you've left a relationship, you know what you don't want. Oh, I don't want someone who's a bully. I don't want somebody who just is selfish. I don't, like, all the things. So if we know all the things, why do we end up in these relationships that suddenly are either exactly what we had before or the complete opposite, which a lot of times isn't good either? And so comfortable uh, isn't necessarily a good thing either. Again, you have to kind of tweeze it out. So, I always say to people when they are in a relationship or dating, are you comfortable? Are you feeling relaxed? Are you feeling safe? Is your nervous system like, that's good. That's a really healthy, comfortable.
Mhm.
However, for familiar, and I don't know the roots or, Latin or whatever, but when you think of familiar, family, there's usually that familiar feeling with a lot of dysfunction. And so, if you're used to bad behavior, if you're used to not being treated well, if you have taken on a lot of beliefs through your life, a lot of when you were a kid, and then it just got worse and worse and worse, that it can feel familiar. And you think, oh, this is good because I know this territory. And yet the territory might be very unhealthy. And that's when relationships really go south and people suffer. So that's why I do the work I do, because people keep ending up in relationships or staying too long because it does feel, quote, comfortable or familiar. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing.
And there's so many options out there. And I love that you're exploring ending relationships and beginning new relationships. We lived in a society for a long time that just really hounded on the idea that you had to stay with one person forever. What are your thoughts about that?
This is what we're dealing with is the paradigms, the things that we've stepped into as soon as we take our first breath. This is how it looks. This is what a good little girl looks like. This is what a successful, woman or man looks like. Check the boxes, get married, have the two kids, or what, it's like all the programming, all the programming. So the whole thing about staying with one person for the rest of your life, that's another belief. And things are changing because we live longer now. So many years ago, people did stay with the same person for the first 40, 50 years because most people didn't live much past that. But now we are. And so if you look at like a percentage, a big percentage of the divorces happen with people in their 40s and 50s because suddenly you're in a different place. Your hormones are different. You're wired differently. You have a different trajectory for your life. And that person you married 10, 20, 30 years ago may not fit the life that you are in now. So if you have a really great friendship, if you really have a great uh, partnership, maybe you're in a different place, and maybe you can go the distance because there's a way to navigate the next half. However, what I see more than not is either people stay because they think they should, and that partner really isn't a good partner for them anymore, or they leave because they are different. They are different. And I know that was true for me when I was in my 40s and I woke up. I begged my husband, we need help. But he was a bully. He was. And he would be in my face. If you think, if with a finger in my face, if you think we have a problem, it's you that has the problem. You go to therapy. He wanted nothing to do with looking at what was going on. So he wasn't willing or ready. And he apologized a few years later, but he wasn't ready to do the work. And I looked at it and I'm like, all right, I'm in my mid 40s. This is who I am. This is the kind of life I want. This is the kind of partner I want. This is what I deserve. And all of those things I didn't have before. And so I claimed that second half and I left him. So we are taught how to fit in, how to not make waves, how to survive. That's in our DNA, and then it's reinforced with our cultural norms, and our parents and our teachers. And if we're lucky, we start to find out that there's way more to how we do our life than just what we've been given.
Yeah. And we don't have to, it seems to me, and I'm on the other end of life, and I can look back and I've had two relationships, two marriages. I've been married for over 40 years, close to 50 years now. I got married when I was 22, I think, to my first husband, and then I married my second husband a week after I divorced my first husband. And I was single for 5 days between the two
Wow. Now
marriages.
you go fast.
I, I, I kind of I needed help is really the reason that I got married the second time. But we've been married for 30 years, and it works. But
Yeah.
he spent most of our marriage, he was on the road. So he was gone a lot. I had a lot of space. And I found
Mm.
out who I was. And I've learned to develop boundaries. And now that we've been living together, it's really like we just got married a couple years ago when he retired.
Awesome.
So we're having a really good time with each other, but we respect each
Oh,
other's space, which is something that we've learned that we both need and want over the years. Um, and we're really good friends, and it's just it's really a good situation. But that doesn't really work for most people. If you're jumping into another relationship and thinking it's going to happen long term, um yeah, you're
yeah.
you're
And
you're
and you're
you need to do some soul searching first.
yeah, soul searching, unpacking, looking at, finding out what's in shadow. What are the blind spots? What have you lost access to because you're afraid that something bad might happen? Or, we pick up these behaviors to make things work and last, because underneath we do have that survival instinct. We don't want to be left. We don't want to disappoint. We don't want to have pain. And so we sometimes don't look at some of the things. Lucky you, you had some space to discover some of these things. Not everybody has that. And you also mentioned one very important word, which is friendship. I mean, my partner and I are best friends. And it's like when stuff happens, it's like I know that he's got my back and I am able to express comfortably what my needs are. I couldn't do that until I was able to really own that my needs matter, that I'm important, that I'm worthy of receiving support, and vice versa, because he's done a hell of a lot of work on himself. So yeah, you are blessed and lucky, and you sounds like you've worked it, and then you've navigated this new chapter of, oh, we both have to respect each other's space and time. You were able, you had enough of the ingredients to go the distance, and you did your work. And the thing is that when I work with my clients, I mean, I had this one client that's coming to mind right now. She just was so afraid of losing the love. And so she was kind of like a doormat. She was a people pleaser. She was just so scared to be alone for a lot of her history that was very painful. And so she did everything she could to make sure the relationship worked. But that meant a lot of sacrifice. And of course, we all, compromise and sacrifice to up to a point, but she was literally abandoning herself and not getting her needs met in the name of, I need to keep this going. So she didn't have that space and time like you did. And even if she did have the space and time, if she just did it on her own, most people cannot see, in fact, I'm just going to say all people cannot see the blind spots because they're in shadow. And so sometimes we could figure it out as we go. However, when there are deep seated fears or programming from the past, it's so important to have somebody that is skilled in getting beyond the conscious mind, because the conscious mind is only 5% of our brain. So 95% is everything you've experienced, and that's what's running the show. So you had some time, and people jumping into a relationship right away without doing the unpacking, without really knowing what needs to be healed inside of me. It's an uphill, and I'm going to say battle, because it's a lot of suffering, unnecessary suffering. And that's why I really put a stake in the ground for what I did and what I help others do now, which is, who are you now? What do you need to unplug from the past, learn from it, and then arrive into this new place so that you can have new and better and different? Because if you don't, even if you think you know what you don't want, sadly, the shadows will appear, and there's pain. And guess what? Whatever's unhealed inside of you, you're going to draw in with that other person with their shadows. And it's messy, and it just doesn't have to be so painful.
It really doesn't. And it's wonderful when people like you come along that are out there saying, "Hey, let me just show you the ropes." Because the idea, I think people stay in relationships because the idea of not having anyone is horrifying in a lot of ways. And the thought that, oh my God, I'm gonna have to date. And the whole dating world is different. And we're entering a time when more and more women over 40 are starting to become single and recognizing that, hey, this relationship isn't working for me anymore. And it's not that I hate this person, it's just that they're not they're not the person that I need alongside of me to enhance my life and enhance what I'm here to do, because we're all here to do something. I don't
Yeah.
believe we're just randomly placed on this place. I it just like it it doesn't make any sense to me that people would just randomly come here. Um, so
Yeah.
when you're
And
stuck in relationships that aren't really helping you be the best you, you're really denying the whole rest of us
yeah.
what you're here to serve with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. It's such a disservice to yourself and to others if you can't just be you. You got the job. There's nobody else that has your job of being you. And so if you don't allow yourself to shine your light, your essence of who you really are, then you are robbing yourself of this grand life experience and other people that you come in contact with to really know your specialness, shadow and light, because none of us are perfect. And the other word that you use, I want to hone in on, is enhance. Like, people come into our life, and ideally, they are not our life, but they're adding to our life. They're enhancing our life. So here we are to have this interesting human experience and hopefully fully. And that's what I support the women to experience, which is their full out expression, to live with abandon unapologetically. And if they choose to bring in a partner, or if they call, if somebody is attracted to them in that energy, they add on, they don't detract. And that's what I love about the clients I work with, because they're like, yeah, I'm not accepting less than that anymore. I'm not accepting bad behavior. And yet I've done that in the past. It's an intellectual, I'm not doing that again. And yet the wiring needs to be rewired. That's why I have that quiz. You mentioned the quiz when we were talking before we started. It's called Discover Your Love Avatar Quiz. And I spent a lot of time creating this, and I'm so proud of it because it spits out information about your love avatar and how you're wired. How confident are you? How do you feel with your worthiness and your boundaries? Where are you on the spectrum? And when you get to see how relationship ready you are, whether you're in a relationship or not, that you get a full report on, this is your superpower. You're really good at this piece. And there might be some things here that might be tripping you up. And here are some next steps to support some of those blind spots, some of those weak muscles, if you will, because we all have those blind spots. We all have had a life. And to live fully, we need to know ourselves on such a deep level.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. The things that you don't know about yourself are the things that you see in other people often that drive you crazy, and you don't understand why they're bugging you. But if you don't look at them and address them and recognize that it's not because you're flawed in some way, you just have areas that you're not as powerful as you are in other areas. I mean, everybody's built like that. And if you're constantly allowing yourself to be around people that are hitting those triggers, my husband and I call it pushing each other's buttons.
Yep.
It's very easy to get into relationships and push each other's buttons. And those are the things that are really painful to you. And you you may or even may not recognize them because oftentimes you don't even realize that this is something that triggers you and that other person will just like keep hitting it. And you don't have to stay with that, but you do need to recognize that it exists so that you don't get yourself in those situations anymore where you're getting you're allowing people to push your buttons.
Okay, there's so much there. Um, so that which triggers you or pushes your buttons. By the way, if you're in a relationship and you're not noticing it, it's familiar. um,
Yeah,
so so anytime, and one of the biggest challenges, and we all know this, is it's so easy to blame the other person and go, it's their fault, they're the asshole, they're the ones, they're the blah. And we
they
look
always.
outside ourselves, right? And it's not to say that they are not contributing or having bad behavior. My ex had bully energy. He was inappropriate in a lot of ways, but my reaction, my experience was mine. And so when there's a trigger, when you have your button pushed, and this is why I do this work, because you don't want a lot of buttons pushed. The more you
Right.
have underneath the surface of, ooh, there's a wound there, ooh, there's a wound there, ooh, there's a wound there, you're going to call in somebody who is going to push those buttons because you have wounds that want to be healed. If there's something inside of you that has not been worked out, you will call in and attract somebody that will poke those buttons because on some soul level, you want to heal. So, if you are seeing somebody that is doing something and you are in reaction, and I'm not talking about, oh, I really don't like that, but under my skin, you use those words. If somebody's under your skin, it is a brilliant opportunity for healing for you. Get curious. Huh? What is it about them that is pissing me off? What is about that quality in them? Oh, they're so aggressive, or they're so selfish, or they're so lazy. Anytime you point a finger at a quality at somebody, you are in the shadow realms. Because if you are charged in some way, let's just use the word lazy, for example. If you're like, oh my God, I just hate people that just don't, put themselves out there and go for the gold or have ambition. They're so lazy. If you Let's just say that as an example, how in my world, in the body of work that I do, the shadow work, what we say is laziness. Laziness is probably in shadow for you. Somewhere along the way you decided, most likely on an unconscious level, that people like them are bad. Maybe you grew up and you had a parent that drank a lot, was on the couch a lot, wasn't working a lot, and you witnessed the other parent working their ass off to make things work. You might have realized that's bad, laziness, and working is good. And so, if you throw away a quality, example, laziness, then you're going to go, ooh, I never want to be like that. So it's going to piss you off and irk you if you see it in someone else. And then you do the opposite. Well, I'm never going to be lazy. I'm going to work, 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 work. And so we throw the baby out with the bathwater because inside the energy of laziness, because it's not all bad, laziness can also be, I'm going to have a lazy Sunday. I'm going to relax. I'm going to read a book. I'm not going to work so hard. I'm going to find balance. I'm going to be able to nurture myself. But if you have not dealt with the shadow, you're going to get poked. And if you take your shadows with you into your next relationship, the more you have, the more volatile it'll be. Great opportunity for growth. It's just going to be painful.
For everybody too, because it's not a relationship is not ever just one human being. And whether it's a dating relationship or you were talking about laziness, and this is like that was so interesting to me. And I'll just take it to a personal level. I have a brother-in-law who doesn't work. He's been homeless. He lives in a trailer now. We can't send him money because he ends up in the hospital. He's an alcoholic. Um, he's a nice guy. He just, I can't have him around me because I have that. with my brother-in-law because though he's a perfectly fine human being and having the experience he's here to have, he he lacks a motivation to work by the definitions that I have applied to people who are not lazy. So he he's been homeless a lot of his life and he doesn't seem to mind. And he lives in a trailer in somebody else's backyard and does odd jobs very, very sparingly. But he we send him a phone and we pay for his phone service so that we can get in touch with him. But we can't send him money because he's also an alcoholic and last couple times we've sent him money, he ended up in the hospital. So we just don't want to do that. But I find that the reason that it triggers me so much is that I have a hard time just stopping. So I've made for myself time in my day where I have a couple hours that I actively am lazy. I play games on my phone. I watch mindless television, and I don't feel guilty about it. I I do it by myself. My husband doesn't even come upstairs during that time. It's just my time to be lazy, and I do it every day because of that reason. It's like I know that I'm a very driven person and I get up at like 4 or 5 in the morning and I start working and I will work until late in the afternoon because that's that's the thing that I've always felt passionate about. But that it just goes back to your point that if you don't recognize the shadow stuff, like I could be really um nasty to my own husband because he likes to have time to himself and he likes to do nothing. He has the nothing box. It's like you can come in, but don't rearrange the furniture.
Yeah.
I don't always have to be doing something, unlike you. Um, and I've had to learn that, it's okay. It, it's not a judgment on who he is. It's just that that's a part of that is a part of who he is. And I don't have to feel bad about it. And I can
And yet
enjoy
you
my own time.
would, and yet you would if it was
Oh,
in shadow. If you
yeah.
had some wounding or an experience, like I don't have that in shadow, but if I did, I would be like looking at my partner going, get going. What's wrong with you? Oh my God,
Yep.
blah, blah, So that's why this work is so special. It's like when you uncover these ouchy places and these beliefs, then you have more compassion for yourself. You have more balance inside yourself. You get to enjoy your life more fully, and it works better with other people. If you haven't dealt with this stuff and you don't know how to find that balance and self care and the ability to express yourself without the fear of whatever criticism, whatever it is, you're going to not be fully engaged. You're not going to be relaxed. You're not going to be enjoying the journey because there's always a part of you that's going, "Oh, be careful. Don't let the shit hit the fan." So, yeah, sorry about your brother-in-law. That sounds challenging. And yet, as you said, this is he's kind of okay with it. And just our beliefs right there. It's like our judgment potentially of, oh, he's living in a trailer, he's suffering. Like those are our beliefs. And that's so coming to this place of curiosity and being aware of where we're triggered, being aware of our beliefs around other people and ourselves, that's a great place to start. And if you've been in a relationship or are in a relationship where there's just a lot of volatility or you're not relaxed and you're trying so hard to navigate the waters, there's something there to be healed. And that's a wonderful thing. And it takes some awareness, it takes some support. And reading books and doing workshops and having life coaches, great up to a point, gives you lots of information. Therapy, up to a point, gives you lots of information. And if you just have information and understanding, you're not going to get the healing. You got to get into the unconscious realm and release and heal and let it go. I'm going to
And
shout that till the end of my days.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's really about understanding why you have these pieces in there. And
Yeah.
it we they come in all kinds of flavors. We're getting ready for the holidays, though this isn't going to actually come out until February. But we have expectations. We're raised with expectations about how things are supposed to look. I grew up in a household where we always used the fine china on holidays. And now I go over to my daughter-in-law's house and we eat on paper plates and use plastics for
It's
It's like
hysterical. I know. I do the same thing now.
why? Why are we doing all this stuff that's like so labor intensive? And we split up the meal. I used to cook everything and we'd have these elaborate spreads. Holidays were not fun for me because it was just so much damn work.
Mm,
But now I can have a good time. We
mm-hmm.
don't because I sold it to them.
You cut out for a second. Now you can have a good time. What did you say?
Because we go to their house. We're not at my house anymore. And
Yeah, nice. You get to relax.
yeah, I can go and have fun.
Nice.
And it can be that way in all of your relationships. And when you do this kind of shadow work and you expose yourself um to the lens of somebody else helping you, it allows you to make changes in your life that will just like not only will you draw in your next level relationship with a partner, but it'll take your relationships with everybody else to the next level.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, that's why I do what I do. And yes, I focus primarily on relationships. And I've had people that want to lose weight, or I have people that, want to take their career to the next level. It's like if you don't, it's all the same thing. It's like what's holding you back? Why are you acting the way you're acting? Why do you have the behaviors? Why do you have those thoughts? Again, you can understand them, but to truly unplug and shift and heal, you got to go into the unconscious realm and then embrace being awake and aware in a whole new way.
Yeah, for sure. So, what do you think so many women actually sabotage themselves this way?
It really does come back to just fear. It really does. We are wired for survival. When we take our first breath, our bodies, our DNA, the many, many thousands and thousands of years of do not get kicked out of the tribe or you're gonna die in the wilderness, that still lives inside of us. Yes, I truly believe we deserve pleasure and all the wonderful things that we want. With that said, at the end of the day, if you're in a house having the best sex of your life, if it's burning down, you're going to get out of the house. You're not going to go, "Oh my god, this is the best sex of my life. I'll deal with the burning." So we're wired for survival. And so what does that mean then? It means that we're going to be careful. It means that we're not going to rock the boat. We're not going to take chances where we think we can get hurt or left or feel like we're disappointing somebody. We avoid pain like the plague. So um yeah, we don't want to be alone on some level. We don't want to have that pain. And so in this body of work, we call this part inside of you called the risk manager. And this part is assessing risks, danger, has the radar for danger. And so if it sees that you might open up your heart again, after you just had it destroyed in your last relationship, it's going to find ways to sabotage you. If you decide that you want to go for a new career, and there's a part of you that has experience of debt or things crashing and burning or people not respecting you or whatever the story is, that part inside of you is going to be like, okay, we need to find a way to have her stay in the job that she's at. And so one of the biggest tools of the risk manager is your inner critic. And so here you are desiring, let's just use relationship because that is my jam. So let's just say you're looking to get out there and date, or you're in a relationship and it's not working, and you're in pain. The risk manager might be like, oh shit, we need to stop this right now. Okay, Let's just have her think she's too fat, too old, too ugly. Let's just tell her no one's going to want her. Let's have her watch TV. Let's, and just avoid dating altogether. That'll do it. Let's just keep her distracted. So we like have all these patterns of behavior that sabotage, because on some level it's a part of you that's going, if we do this, we can keep her safe. She doesn't have to take the chance anymore. Same thing for being in a relationship. Well, if you speak up, if you really ask for something different, if you ask for more time to be alone, or ask for more time to be with them, or you want to go on a vacation or whatever it is, ooh, the last time you did that, it was a big fight. He called you selfish. Don't do that. And so you find sabotaging behaviors to keep you from taking that chance. So, on the one hand, the risk manager is in service to keep you safe. On the other hand, there's pain associated with keeping you safe. And that's when people come to me. They're like, I'm in pain. I'm not putting myself out there. I don't know how to date anymore. I'm scared. I was in a relationship for over 30 years. Now it's all different. I only dated one person, my husband. I've only had sex with one person, my husband. And now I'm in my 60s and my vagina's dry and I'm scared, you know? So so we sabotage to keep us safe. And we need to get that part, the risk manager, to see that there's a lot more going on. There's a high price we're paying with the sabotage, but it's on some level in service to us and it hurts us. So we need to change that.
So how do you work with people? Is it in groups or is it one-on-one? How does that look to actually work with you?
Thank you for asking that. Most people don't ask that. It really depends on the person. Um, and what their needs are. So I have people. In fact, if when people do the quiz, and I encourage you to do the quiz and look at the report because there's a lot in there, you'll get invited to talk to me for a love breakthrough session, and we talk about what your patterns are, what are your challenges, where are you headed, or what do you want to have happen, and why don't you have it yet? So we'll pull it apart. And then we look at what would be the best next step for you. So I do both. I have a year-long program called the uh, what is it called? Midlife Love Unleashed, where we do a lot of the deep dive work and looking at the shadows, and it's in a group format with some private coaching, because the private coaching really is very special one-on-one work where some of the things might be more sensitive and need that extra special care. So some people really love the group work and bring in the coaching, and it's a hybrid. And groups are great because you learn so much from each other. And I've created it so you can have the one on one as well. And some people really just want to go faster, want to dive deeper, and want that special attention. And so I do one on ones as well.
Awesome. Awesome. And how can people get in touch with you?
Best thing to do is to just go to my website, midlifeloveoutloud.com, and you'll actually see the quiz there as well. And there's a place for contact and to apply for a love breakthrough session. I open up a handful of spots every month. It's a complimentary 30-minute session where you and I will sit down, and I really will get to understand your landscape of your life and what you're desiring, and support you. And you'll get a mini love plan in that session, so you'll have some next steps whether we work together or not. So it's a nice way to explore what my coaching might sound like and how it feels together. And if I have a strong degree of knowing I can help you, I will let you know that. And if not, we will part as friends. You'll have a little mini plan, and you can go in a different direction. So that's the best way, is midlifeloveoutloud.com.
Perfect. This has been an amazing conversation, Junie. I really appreciate you joining me today. What's the one thing you hope the audience takes away from our conversation?
Well, firstly, thank you. You're an amazing host and great
Oh,
questions. It's been
thank you.
wonderful. I think the biggest thing, that there are two things. One is that healing is possible. That what your reality is right now doesn't have to stay your reality. And I think the biggest thing that I really love to drill home, drive home, drill home, whatever, is that there are some other things at play in you. The unconscious realm is huge. The programming is huge. So if you're struggling, if there's something that's not working for you and you don't understand why, or you beat yourself up and are not kind to yourself or gentle, or there's just something going on that just doesn't feel aligned for you, that there's the unconscious realm and all the conditioning that you've picked up along the way. And when you know that, just that piece, hopefully that can take a little bit of the sting out and allow yourself to have more compassion for the fact that you've been programmed to be a certain way to survive, and that awareness can go really far and help you have that healthy discernment of how to heal. So that's that's what I'm going to say.
Perfect. Thanks again for joining me.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us for the U World Order Showcase podcast. Remember, if you would like to be featured on this podcast as a life, health, or transformational coach, please visit www.jointheuworldorder.com. We look forward to talking to you next time as we present another life, health, or transformational coach being the change they seek in the world.